What's up, YouTube? Jeff, your Style O.G. And on today's video, I'm going to share with you my best tips on how to make small talk. If you're new to the channel, we release a new video every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, discussing various men's lifestyle topics such as style, grooming, and dating. I invite you to subscribe, tap the notification bell, and join us. And to my returning friends like Robert Grayson, salute. Now I get it, small talk can be difficult and awkward. Nothing worse than that deafening silence when neither one of you can think of anything to talk about. But small talk is a necessary social evil. There are just some situations where you have to engage in it. Whether you're trying to chat up a new chick you're interested in, other casual situations, or maybe a professional circumstance, you have to master small talk. And that's what I want to help you with on today's video. On today's video, I'm going to share with you some of my best tips on how you can make small talk just a little less awkward. So without any further delay, let's hop right into it. Now, the first step to take to improve your small talk is to make sure you have, before you even engage in any conversation, open and welcoming body language. You see, when you engage in small talk, you want to make sure the other person is comfortable. One of the best ways to do that, welcoming body language. What does approachable and open body language look like? For starters, orient your body towards that person, make eye contact, and make sure your arms aren't crossed. This is open body language. It lets people in. And you want to make sure you're standing at the right distance. You don't want to be an up-close in your face talker, or you don't want to be too far back. You want to stand about 1.5 to 3 feet away from the other person. The more casual the conversation, the closer you get. The more professional, stand a little further back, closer to the 3 feet. And a very important step, especially in these modern times, don't have your cell phone out. Very rude. The first step to better small talk, open and approachable body language. Now that you have the open body language, the next step is either to say hello or introduce yourself. Of course, you got to get the conversation started. You've got to say hello. If it's somebody you already know, say hello. What's up, Maria? Good to see you again. If it's someone you don't know, introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Jeff, and your name is? And one of the key things to do when introducing yourself or just saying hello, make sure you put the other person at ease by having a nice, relaxed smile. A stern, no-nonsense look will make the other person uncomfortable. But remember, I said a relaxed smile, not a goofy grin. So before you even jump into any conversational topics, say hello or introduce yourself. Now, the next thing I want you to keep in mind as you try to improve your small talk is another thing to do before the conversation gets going. Make sure you remember to keep the talk light and positive. Remember, this is small talk. Keep that in mind. No deep, heavy conversation. Keep the talk surface level. You don't want to offend or run the other person off. So stay away from religion, politics, other controversial topics. Now isn't the time for philosophical debates. Want some great topics to talk about to keep it light and positive? Think sports, hobbies, music, movie, other favorites, art, and food. The thing is, keep the topics light. Heavy topics drag small talk down. You want the other person to lead the small talk with a feeling of lightness, positivity, and to feel like they had fun talking to you. Now, one of the steps you want to take as you enter the conversation is try to establish common ground. This is great for small talk. Establishing common ground gives you guys something to actually talk about. This may seem like a challenge, but it's really not that complicated. What I always recommend, use the circumstance or setting to your advantage. If you're at a social event, ask the person how they know the host. Very easy way to start conversation. A very generic thing that fits almost any situation, ask them what brings them there. Or another great example, say you meet someone in class, ask them, hey, what do you know about Professor so-and-so? Keep in mind, you both are in the same setting. You already have that in common. You both came there for a reason. It's very important when you start small talk, establish some common ground. Now, after you've established some common ground, this gives you the opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself and bring the person in. Use the common ground as your springboard to do so. For example, take the class example. Say, hey man, I took Professor Johnson last semester. I really learned a lot. Or something along the lines of, man, I couldn't miss this party. John throws excellent get-togethers. Or you can say something along the lines of, hey, I keep coming back to this bar because John makes great margaritas. You should try one. I really love them. But the key here is to bring the person in and let them know a little bit about you, but just on the surface level. No deep personal revelation. Now, after you talked a little bit about yourself, I think a very good step to take is to start asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are ones that allow for free-form, flowing conversation, as opposed to closed-ended questions, which typically require a yes or no answer or an ABC answer. Those are very limiting. Let me give you a couple of examples. Say you're at a networking event. Ask the person, hey, what brings you to this networking event? Are you looking to meet someone in particular? Or say you're in the first day of class, ask them, what have you heard about Professor Johnson? But make sure as you're asking these open-ended questions, you're actively listening. This allows you to process the answer and then come up with a follow-up question. This will help the conversation keep flowing. Now I want to give you one of my best tips to help you with one of the most awkward parts of small talk. When there's a lull in the conversation, or it seems neither one of you have anything else to talk about, what I recommend you do, use your surroundings to your advantage. What does that mean? As the conversation takes a lull, use someone or something in the room to get the conversation going again. Say, for example, if you notice someone in the room, say, hey, do you know John over there? Pretty good guy. Or there could be a piece of art on the wall that you find intriguing. Bring that up. And what I like to do when there's a lull in the conversation, this is a great time to give the other person a compliment. Say it's a woman you just met. Compliment her dress or her smile. Say you're at a more professional event and you're talking to another guy. You can say something like, hey man, I knew I should have worn my Navy suit today. You're killing it in yours. The key here is when there's a lull in the conversation, use the room or the circumstances to get the conversation going again. Now for my next tip, I want to give a little bit more detail on something I just briefly talked about. Throughout your small talk, make sure you're really paying attention and actively listening. This serves a couple of purposes. One, when you actively listen and pay attention to what the other person is saying, it gives you something to process and it gives you information to springboard to keep the conversation going. The more you actively listen, you'll be able to pick up on more things you have in common. Establish more common ground. Say the conversation went to music and a person mentions their favorite artist. You can use that as a springboard. You can say, hey, you love Bob Marley? Me too. How long have you been listening to him? Is he the only reggae artist you listen to? What are some other ones you like? And especially if you both have this common interest, you can talk about some of your favorite Bob Marley albums or other music you like. And also being an active listener and asking follow-up questions makes the other person feel heard. Very important in small talk. One of the key tools to be more effective at small talk, really pay attention and be an active listener. Another very important tool to have in small talk is to make sure you have the ability to finish the conversation strong. Now, when you notice a lull in the conversation, or it's getting too awkward, or you realize it's just coming to an end, here's what I recommend you already have. Pre-plan exit lines. You don't want to have this deafening awkward silence when you can't think of anything else and you're trying to get away. That's where the pre-planned exit lines come in. A few good examples to end the conversation strong. I like to use ones like, hey man, is that Bob over there? I really need to go catch up with him. Or another good one I like to use, hey man, it was really good talking to you, but I don't think it's fair that I monopolize all your time. Or another great one is to once again use your common ground. You can exit by saying, hey man, I really enjoyed talking to you about ABC. The key is to not stick around too long after the conversation seems it's coming to an end. It makes it awkward for you and the other person. Make sure you finish the conversation strong. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, small talk can be very awkward and challenging, but it's a necessary evil when it comes to socializing. But I believe if you pay attention and incorporate the tips we talked about on today's video, you'll be well on your way to being much better at small talk. As always, I'd love to have your input. Let the Style O.G family know in the comments section if you have any great tips to make small talk a little easier.